Okay, hi everybody. My last video got cut off, so I wanted to kind of continue on with the 12th house and what that means for you. If you have your birth chart with you, I think it's a good idea to take a look and follow along to see if this makes sense to you. But I did want to talk about the personal planets in the 12th house. And like I said in my last video, the 12th house is the house of what they call the house of self-undoing. It's the house of the subconscious mind. It's the house of secrets. It's the house of hidden enemies. And it's the house of kind of where we mess ourselves up until we become aware of what we're doing, and then it becomes a conscious decision what we're going to do. So it sounds like a terrible house. It's really not. I was trying to say in my last video, there's a lot of people that I have found to be very successful with a heavy placement in the 12th house. It's about really learning to master yourself, your subconscious. It is the house of psychics, and it's also the house of dreams. It's ruled by Neptune and Pisces. So anybody with a strong 12th house is going to have a Neptunian vibe going on in their personality, and they can be any sun sign or whatever, but they'll still have a little bit of a Pisces type feel. It is the house of dreams too. So a lot of times I see with a really strong 12th house, dreams are very important. These people's dreams can be super prophetic, sometimes super prophetic. So it's important if you have that placement to really, really pay attention to your dreams, write them down. But like I said before, just really quick for you guys who are learning astrology, the personal planets, as you know, are the Sun, Mercury, the Moon, Mars, and Venus. Those are the ones that are personal to us. The generational planets are Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and Jupiter. They're still important because even though they're generational and everybody your age is going to have it in the same sign, everybody's chart is totally different and unique to them. So a lot of times, you know, it'll be in a different house or aspecting different planets, whatever. But for purposes of this video, I kind of want to just go over the basics of the personal planets in the 12th house. I'm going to try to do something eventually with every house so that you guys can get a better understanding of what goes on in the houses, because the houses are very important in astrology. So the sun in the 12th house is going to give that person a Neptunian, a Pisces flavor to the personality. The sun is the ego. It rules the father. So traditional astrology books are always going to say the father was distant, he was detached, he could have died early, blah, 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 blah. That's not necessarily true, but this person has a part of them as they grow up that needs to kind of withdraw, you know, something, you know, they're very, very intuitive, so they can't be around people for too long, or else they're going to feel very drained. So they need a lot of time alone. And this is why the 12th house is called the house of solitude. It's self-imposed solitude a lot. There is cases where people have, you know, 12th house aspects going on and they're in prison or jail or whatever, but it's usually something like what drugs or alcohol, because the 12th house rules all kinds of escape, negative as well. It also rules spirituality. So I'll get into that later, but there's positive and negative going on there. So the 12th house is where we kind of are reclusive. You know, this is where, and I'm sure some of you guys out there are like this, you can kind of only take being around crowds or people for so long before you need that time away, that time to yourself. So that's very, very 12th house with the sun. There could have been some detachment with the father early on in the life. A lot of times the father just worked a lot, or he could have, you know, traveled, maybe had to live somewhere else for a while. That would all give a 12th house, because so much with astrology is around our early beginnings and how they affect us subconsciously for the future. The moon in the 12th house, as I said before, you know, the sun rules the dad, the moon rules the mom. So the moon in the 12th house, and the moon is our emotions. And I mentioned this before, a lot of times the mother had either problems with the pregnancy or she was having personal problems around the time when, you know, the child was born. You know, if you have your moon in the 12th house, there was something going on. So what the challenge here is with the moon in the 12th person, again, another psychic placement for somebody, but is kind of expressing your emotions, being open to expressing your emotions to other people. That is a moon in the 12th house, because what's in the 12th house is what we're hiding, even from ourselves. But once you know astrology, this is the beauty of astrology, you can figure it out. If you want me to get to your chart, I can look at the aspects of the 12th house and figure out where you're kind of subconsciously messing yourself up and what you can do to fix that. So this is a very moon in the 12th house type of thing. Remember, it's issues with the mother early on in that time when the baby was, probably before the baby was even born, but when she was pregnant with the baby, that kid will often have a moon in the 12th house. So Venus in the 12th house, again, I'm kind of reiterating myself, but I know my last video shut off, is more like basically these people will hide their emotions. They hide their romantic emotions towards somebody. They're not very forthcoming with, oh my gosh, I love you, and blah, 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 because, and sometimes they'll have a thing for somebody and they won't even realize it because, you know, Venus is hiding away there in the 12th house. Another manifestation of this placement I see quite often is clandestine love affairs, okay? And those really aren't good because usually somebody gets hurt in one of those, but this is a very Venus in the 12th house thing. So, you know, that's probably not the way to go with stuff, but that's one thing you want to guard against, you know? Always making an appearance over here. Here's Edgar. Come here, E. So that's Venus. Mars in the 12th house, I talked about this one before. These people, be careful with these people because they hide all their anger because they will explode. They're usually quiet. They're usually people like, oh, he or she is so nice. You know, they never get their like feathers ruffled or anything, but no, the wrong day, the wrong time. So that's why it's a good idea just to be nice to everybody because you really don't know who's got Mars in the 12th house. Anyways, but they're very, 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 you know, they will internalize anger, and that's not good for our health anyway. So if I see that with a placement, I always tell people to kind of, you know, figure out something, whether it's exercise or acupuncture or yoga or whatever your gig is, because you don't want to internalize that anger. It turns into high blood pressure and, you know, all kind of other physical ailments. And that's why you got to be careful with that. So, and then also, I want to talk about Mercury in the 12th house. And I talked about this before. I have Mercury in the 12th house in Eastern and Western astrology. It is the sign, Mercury's communication, 12th house is other realms. So it is not uncommon for people with Mercury in the 12th house to work as psychics and astrologers because we are in constant communication with other realms or the subconscious mind. I believe it's the subconscious mind. They're able to tap into the subconscious mind. I told you before, a lot of times Mercury in the 12th house, these people will hide they're shy when they're young, not necessarily when they get older, but they will hide their intellect. Because remember, everything in the 12th house is hidden. It's all hidden, even from ourselves. One particular challenge I found with having this placement, even though I work as a psychic and as an astrologer, so it's very, very Mercury in the 12th housey kind of a thing, is I tend to daydream a lot and maybe not get some things done because I'm a fantasy type person. You know, I can just drift off by myself and kind of seclude myself and be into my little like fantasies, and sometimes I can manifest them and make them happen. But that thing, and the other thing is too, is a lot of times I can't say what I feel and know to people, which kind of is frustrating because I know that I'm going to get anger. Sometimes I know things and I can't say it. And I know things really strong, and it's very, very, it makes me kind of reclusive and not want to be around those people because it's frustrating to me to not be able to express myself and tell people, you know, it's different when with my clients because I can just tell them stuff, but on a personal level, you know, I can't tell people what I know is going to happen or what I know is going to go on because they get angry and they don't want to listen to me. And then the frustration just builds and builds and builds. So again, a Mercury, Venus, Mars, you know, Sun, Moon, this is where I always like retreat. This is where we always retreat, and retreating is not a bad thing for any of us. We all need it sometimes. And like I said before, just because you don't have planets in the 12th house does not mean you don't have a 12th house going on, because I look at the cusp and the ruler of the cusp and where that is and what that's aspecting. So it's called finding the final dispositor of everything. It's quite a process with astrology, but everybody's got a 12th house going on. As far as the secret enemies, what's done in the dark always comes to light. We know that, you guys. That's why it's best always just to be honest from the beginning, no matter what. The 12th house is the house of secret enemies. The 6th house is the house of open enemies. So there's a lot to it. 12th house is big animals that can hurt you. 6th house is small animals. But more importantly, it is the psychic house. It is a house of psychic ability. So when I see people with a really strong 12th house, I know they have some for sure intuitive abilities that they're dealing with. Whether or not they've tapped into these, I don't know. Another interesting thing about 12th house is no matter where it is, because I know people like crazy successful business people with a packed 12th house, and you think, oh, I thought they'd be all mystical and stuff, but they're able to use their intuition to predict future business things and to predict future trends. So if you think about marketing, media, communications, anything like that, these can also kind of fall into the 12th house because you are constantly predicting the future in business. You know, you're always using your intuition to predict what's going to happen next. If you want to deal with this client, if you don't want to deal with this client, everything else, it's all about intuition. So I hope that you enjoyed this little show about Mercury, about the 12th house, basically, and all the personal planets. If you have any questions, please comment below. I know some of you watching have some planets in the 12th house because I've talked to you guys before about it. So let me know your experiences and how you deal with it and what you think. All right, thanks. Bye.